the NRA, I saw this ad from the NRA, the National Rifle Association. They are the de facto lobbying wing for all gun manufacturers. That's what they are. They are not a constitutional rights organization. They are not a gun as a right to own organization. They are in fact a lobbying group. That's who they have devolved into. So over the weekend, in honor of Father's Day, they released a propaganda video. And in this explosive, and I mean that word intentionally, propaganda video, they featured an Arizona father-daughter shooting duo, right? Because this is obviously very, very important to them, with a pretty extreme ending. NRA members, Danny D'Angelo and his 17-year-old daughter, her name is Daniela, are seen firing a variety of guns, including some type of grenade at the end. And listen, I'm no constitutional scholar, but I'm pretty sure the bomb at the end is not included in the US Constitution. But it was the end of this propaganda commercial. Here's some of that. The entire context of this video is about teaching your children to protect themselves from whatever, right? They really don't provide any information other than that. We just need to teach our children to shoot, to kill, to blow things up because they need to get ready for war. War against who exactly? Now this was in Arizona, alarming data about gun violence in Arizona, where this whole gun violence thing or theme came from. Homicide, 2,195. Total number of gun injuries, 2,186. And the list goes on. This is from the Gun Violence Archive, 2014 to 2021, Arizona stats. From 2014 to 2021, there have been 2,195 deaths due to gun violence. If that's not bad enough, more than 20,000 total deaths, with just 600 of them being from self-defensive use. And this is all gun related. We have a gun problem in America where people equate gun and God to the same thing. Kenya, what are your thoughts?
I think it just speaks more to the same pandering, the same propaganda that is reminiscent of the NRA, their association with guns, with violence, with make somebody a man or masculine, which is why we're seeing that perpetuated on Father's Day, because apparently your ability as a parent is defined by your ability to remove the lives of someone else's child using a gun. I'm not quite sure here quite what the logic was, because if we're looking at how parents of other backgrounds are teaching their children to protect themselves, let's have conversations with Black fathers who at an early age have to teach their children how to interact with police officers if they may be pulled over or if they may be stopped with Skittles and an iced tea. We're having conversations from Latinx parents who might have to teach their children what to do if they're stereotyped as undocumented. We're having those conversations. Those are what fathers are doing. Those are what fathers, in terms of being leaders and advocating for protecting their children and protecting their children from the realities of what this country goes through. That is what fatherhood looks like. And so, if we're looking at the NRA, this is nothing more than the same propaganda that makes them puff up their chests and coddle to sensitive, white, fragile feelings that helps them realize that this is what it means to be American. The same way that you can't see an American flag without a Confederate flag or a drag race or Daisy Dukes, our country music. We have this one tunnel vision, and it usually is a means to exclude those who do not fit within that umbrella. But that they're speaking to exactly their audience, those who see Americans as one uniform, or fatherhood or manhood as one uniform ideal. And anyone who does not fit within that, those are the people that they're targeting. That's the who.
The ad says D'Angelo, who's the father in the ad, it says D'Angelo gets an A+ in parenting. That's what the ad says. He gets an A+ in parenting. Now, get the connection here. He gets an A+ in parenting according to this commercial, this propaganda, because he in fact teaches his white female young daughter to use a gun and to blow things up. That is the correlation. to good parenting according to the NRA. However, I guarantee you this, if that would have been a black father teaching his black daughter how to shoot, how to blow things up, the narrative would have been that that black father is teaching his kids how to be thugs, teaching his kids how to be gangsters, teaching his kids how to be antithetical to the United States of America. And I promise you, the conservatives will say, this black family, they don't love America. They are anti-American. You gotta understand the context here, because literally you have people that still receive the narrative of being patriots to this country, who say F this country on a regular basis, who say that they are actually learning how to shoot weapons for the reason of coming against the United States government. You have individuals who have already engaged in an insurrection against the United States government, and they still proclaim to be patriots of this country. And they will say that people like myself and people like you are anti-American when they in fact proclaim they are anti-American.
I think the same reason why we even have certain gun laws at the state and local level was in response to fears that Black Panthers were going to arm themselves. The same way we get concerns about gun safety when we're encouraging Black communities to arm themselves. I think we'll have a different discussion on the framing of the vitality, the safetiness of guns and our gun culture the moment that those who do not look like what we associate to be Americans are the dominant culture within it using them. And I think the moment that the NRA is finding themselves similarly to other leagues that have ICE or other organizations, sports leagues, other arenas that have excluded Black communities to their detriment, have excluded communities of color, despite the fact that we will soon be the majority across this country, the more you start seeing them shift that marketing to the very demographics that are going to keep organizations like them afloat while they're now claiming that they need bankruptcy protections, the more you see them beginning to pander to the very communities that will keep their revenue flowing, the more we'll see the conversation around gun safety change. Because the moment we start having those conversations about it being inclusive of anyone outside of the Americans that we envision or those who are their target demographic envision, the moment we'll see the rhetoric around gun reform change.
Yeah, it's actually a simple solution. If you want to see gun laws change immediately, have a mass production of Black people apply for gun licenses. If you do that, I guarantee you these laws will start transforming immediately. Hell, states will call emergency legislative session in order to start changing some of these gun laws. It is still interesting to me that people who are members of the NRA are continually tricked by the propaganda machine, because many of them joined the NRA many years ago because they thought this was a real gun rights organization. But it is no longer that, and it hasn't been that for a very long time. And when you take a poll of the NRA, over 90% of its members, they actually believe in things like universal background checks. They believe that individuals with certain mental health disorders should not have access to weaponry. They believe in these concepts, but even though they are the members and they are dues-paying members, the NRA represents something totally opposite to politicians. Why? Because the members, even though they pay a lot collectively, they don't pay nearly as much as the cats who are gun manufacturers paying the NRA to keep talking.
Now, I won't pretend to be an academic or insult your prowess, but we know the difference between believing something in theory versus practice. So we know that there is an NRA in theory, and we know that there are those who are members of the NRA in theory believing that this is supposed to be something that boosts the credibility of gun owners and boosts the credibility and the integrity of those who choose to be, which they have a right to be, law-abiding gun owners who carry and operate their guns legally and responsibly. But that's the NRA in theory, and we know in practice this is the organization that has pandered to those who care more about profit than integrity, who care more about revenue than credibility. And so if that means that we're willing to lift certain protections so that more guns can get in the hands of those who don't need it or should not even have access, if that means we're ridding ourselves of background checks, other barriers to get guns out of the hands of those who are dangerous with them, if that means that is hindering our revenue and profits, we're willing to sacrifice our integrity and credibility for that. But thankfully, there are those within the NRA who are starting to wise up to that very propaganda. That the NRA they love in theory is not what they see in practice.
Very well said.